biggest army. It's about who uses their resources better. And while modern technology has transformed the battlefield, many of the core strategies behind victory are ancient. Generals today still read the same books, study the same battles, and apply the same principles that guided warriors in ancient Rome, feudal Japan, and the trenches of World War I. Some of these tactics are so effective that they've barely changed in over 2,000 years. Let's start with ambushes. The element of surprise has always been one of the deadliest tools in war. When an enemy thinks they're safe or in control, their guard is down. That's the perfect moment to strike. Hannibal pulled off one of the most famous ambushes in military history at the Battle of Lake Trasimene. He used the natural terrain to trap a Roman army between the lake and the hills. His men were hidden in the trees and struck when the Romans were marching in a narrow path, unable to maneuver or defend themselves. Thousands were killed before they even knew what was happening. Fast forward to modern times. The same concept is used by insurgent groups in places like Afghanistan and Iraq. Militants plant improvised explosive devices on roads, wait in hidden positions, and attack military convoys as they pass by. The tactics have changed shape. Drones might now watch from above, and communication is done through encrypted radios, but the core idea remains. Strike fast, from hiding, and leave before the enemy can respond. Another classic tactic is flanking. If you charge directly at the front of an enemy force, you're fighting them at their strongest. But attack from the sides or rear, and you hit them where they're weakest. This is what Alexander the Great mastered. At the Battle of Gaugamela, he faced an enemy that outnumbered him by at least 2-1. He used clever formations to distract the enemy front, and then sent elite cavalry to the side to punch through the flanks. Once the formation was broken, the battle was won. In modern warfare, flanking happens at a much larger scale. In World War II, the Germans used fast-moving tank divisions to bypass French defenses and strike from the side. During the Gulf War in 1991, the United States executed a massive flanking operation known as the Left Hook, where coalition forces moved hundreds of miles through the desert to hit Iraqi forces from behind. Flanking forces your opponent to split attention and makes their strongest defenses useless. It remains a powerful tactic on land, sea, and even in the air. Now let's talk about psychological tactics, because not all battles are fought with bullets. One of the oldest strategies is the feigned retreat. This means pretending to run away, tricking the enemy into thinking they're winning, and then counterattacking when they let their guard down. The Mongols were experts at this. They would fake a chaotic retreat, draw their enemies into a chase, and then turn around with reinforcements ready to surround them. This worked again and again, because people tend to get overconfident when they think they're winning. Modern versions of the feigned retreat are less dramatic, but just as effective. Sometimes a force will pull back intentionally to draw enemies into a more vulnerable position, like open ground with no cover. Sometimes it's done digitally spreading fake intel that a unit is retreating or weakened, only to trap an enemy force once they act on it. War today is as much about information as it is about firepower. That brings us to deception. This is a tactic as old as war itself. If you can confuse your enemy, get them to focus on the wrong place, or make them hesitate, you've already taken control of the battlefield. The Chinese general Sun Tzu emphasized deception over 2,000 years ago, saying that all warfare is based on it. His lessons are still taught in military academies around the world. In World War II, the Allies pulled off one of the greatest deceptions in history, Operation Fortitude. Before the D-Day landings, they created an entirely fake army group, complete with inflatable tanks, dummy landing craft, and fake radio transmissions. German spies were fed misinformation, and even Hitler believed the invasion would come at Calais instead of Normandy. That deception saved countless lives and helped make the invasion a success. Today, deception plays out through cyber warfare and electronic signals. Armies might jam enemy communications to simulate retreat, fake GPS signals to confuse missile systems, or plant false news stories to create chaos. The battlefield now includes the internet, satellites, and even social media. Divide and conquer is another ancient but deadly effective strategy. The logic is simple. Break the enemy into smaller pieces, then destroy them one at a time. Julius Caesar used this when invading Gaul. Instead of facing multiple tribes as a united front, he negotiated with some, fought others, and ensured they couldn't coordinate against him. By dividing his enemies politically and militarily, he reduced their power without ever fighting them all at once. In the modern world, this tactic takes many forms. A commander might use jamming technology to cut communication between enemy units. Once isolated, each group is easier to take down. Politically, nations might encourage division among enemy groups, sowing distrust so they never unite. The battlefield isn't just terrain anymore. It's networks, alliances, and minds. Now let's look at shock and awe. This term became popular during the Iraq War, but the concept is ancient. It's about overwhelming your enemy so completely and so suddenly that they can't mount a response. Blitzkrieg, used by Nazi Germany in World War II, was built around this. Speed and coordination between tanks, planes, and infantry made enemy defenses collapse before they could organize. The idea is to destroy not just the enemy's forces, but their will to fight. Shock and awe can be delivered in other ways too. A cyber attack that shuts down power, a bombing campaign that cripples supply lines, or a political assassination that creates panic all are versions of this tactic. It's about making the enemy freeze, hesitate, or give up entirely. Now consider terrain. Throughout history, generals have chosen where to fight carefully. At the Battle of Thermopylae, the Spartans used a narrow pass to cancel out the Persian advantage in numbers. Controlling the high ground, blocking roads, or flooding valleys, these choices changed the shape of battle. In the Middle Ages, castles were built on hills for a reason. In Vietnam, dense jungle gave the advantage to guerrilla fighters who knew the land. In the 21st century, terrain includes more than just land. Airspace, cyberspace, and even orbit are contested. Satellites give intelligence advantages. Air superiority allows bombing runs without risk. And digital terrain servers, networks, firewalls can be just as valuable as rivers and roads. Modern generals plan campaigns on maps that look very different from the past, but the principle is the same. Control the space and you control the fight. Another tactic gaining importance today is asymmetric warfare. When one side is far weaker than the other, they can't win through traditional means. Instead, they focus on small, unpredictable attacks, targeting weak points and trying to drag out the fight. The goal isn't always to win, it's to bleed the opponent, force them to spend more than it's worth, and turn public opinion against the war. Asymmetric warfare has been seen everywhere from the American Revolution to the Vietnam War, from Afghanistan to Ukraine. It involves guerrilla tactics, sabotage, information warfare, and psychological operations. The smaller side uses mobility, knowledge of terrain, and unconventional thinking to frustrate a larger force. It's proof that you don't need more troops to win, you just need to make the enemy play your game. Finally, coordination and timing are often overlooked, but they're the glue that holds all these tactics together. A perfectly timed attack, a sudden shift in strategy, or a delayed response can mean the difference between victory and defeat. This is what generals spend most of their time on, figuring out not just what to do, but when and how to do it. In a world of instant communication, drones, satellites, and smart weapons, precise timing can make an army seem much more powerful than it really is. The bottom line is this: no matter how advanced warfare becomes, the mind remains the most dangerous weapon. Military leaders today are trained not just in using tanks and missiles, but in thinking like Caesar, Napoleon, and Genghis Khan. They study old battles because those lessons still apply. Tactics like ambush, flanking, deception, and psychological warfare haven't gone away. They've just evolved with the tools we use. So the next time you see footage of a modern war, remember that behind all the high-tech gear, the real battle is still about brains over brute force. Whether it's a Roman general commanding infantry or a cyber commander directing a drone strike, the principles haven't changed. If you enjoyed this breakdown of military tactics from history to modern warfare, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel for more deep dives, and let us know in the comments which tactic you think is the most powerful or underrated in warfare.